Hey there, welcome to the very first game that we're going to shoutcast here. I am Jism Jedi, JJ, as some of you may know from my stream. I got with me here Cabo Papa,
Hello.
and we are going to be shoutcasting the first game for Indormi versus Phoenix. These guys have got some. This is a constructed tournament that we did, where it was Indormi was playing a Diamond Sapphire mid-range deck, and Phoenix was playing a Mono Ruby control deck, maybe mid-range deck. Um, we got some interesting brews here. How do you think that these games play out here, Papa?
Well, they're very interesting because they're both built to beat aggressive decks, and neither one of them seems to be facing that in this matchup. So it's going to be very interesting to see how the threats match up against each other. So it's going to be an unorthodox setting in that environment.
So from Indormi's side, what do you think are the key cards that he plays and the key cards that he's hoping to draw against Phoenix?
Well, I think in any matchup for Indormi's deck, I mean, he's running Soul Marble for a reason, and it's going to do wonders against Indormi's deck because it's going to invalidate any of his removal, either by making his creatures untargetable or too big. But I think one of the key cards Indormi has in this matchup is counter magic. Indormi is going to have cards such as burn spells or rage fires, burn to the ground, burns that could possibly do direct damage. Phoenix is going to have that to do it to Indormi. And Soul Marble doesn't interact with those spells, but counter magic is going to be a key card here.
Right. And how do you feel that Phoenix lines up against Indormi's deck? What are the cards that he's hoping to draw in this matchup, and kind of what do you think is the plan he's going to try to take here?
Well, I think Phoenix kind of has some dead cards in this matchup. Any removal spells he's going to be casting are going to be fairly ineffective in this matchup, either for lack of targets or for lack of effectiveness. So I really think Phoenix needs to take an aggressive approach. So he's going to be looking for ways to get threats on the table, get them in for damage, and to keep that damage going.
Gotcha. Would you say that you think that Phoenix should be the aggressive player in this matchup then?
It seems to me from what I see available that Phoenix should be the aggressive player in this matchup.
Okay. Well, let's see if it plays out that way. Let's go check out the games here. So we're looking at the opening hands here. And for Indormi, he's got all of his colors. He is a 2-color deck. And Phoenix has mulliganed. Looks down to 6. He's got 3 shards and a couple threats and a burn spell.
Yeah, I don't know. That opening hand for Phoenix is a little sketchy. He's keeping 2 slaughter gears and 3 resources off of mulligan. I suppose he doesn't have a lot of choices, though.
Yeah, I suppose that's one thing that's also worth asking too. Which are there better hands that he could hope to even get off of 5 cards here?
Well, I mean, certainly I think, again, he wants to be able to play threats, but he's got to be able to get to those threats as quickly and effectively as possible. So having double slaughter gear and nothing else really isn't... I don't think that's what his game plan needs to look like right now.
Fair enough. And I guess we should say too, I don't think these players actually knew what each other were playing when they started their matchups, so um, we have a little bit of extra knowledge here that they didn't necessarily have.
Yeah. You see Phoenix has added an Ash Harpy to that hand. Again, he's got 3 6-drops now and no way to get to them.
Right. So what do you think? What do you think that Indormi is hoping to do here in the first couple of turns?
Well, I mean, Indormi in this matchup, he's seen 2 rubies now. He sees Tetsa as the champion. I think he's starting to get the idea that it's not a fast-paced, aggressive deck. So Indormi is just sitting here wanting to do exactly what his deck does best, which is pretty much nothing. And he wants this game to go as long as it's going to go, as long as it can. And I think he trusts the power of his cards to come out.
Fair enough. Yeah, I'm looking, and he's certainly got lots of resources that he can play out here.
Yeah, that Buccaneer's not going to do a lot of good, though.
Yeah, for both of these players, it seems like the early action is not really the aggressive play, and they're really the anti-aggro here.
Ooh, Eternal Guardian. This is just going from bad to worse for PhoenixForge.
Yeah,
He needs a hex engine or surge mechanism or something to help his resources.
yes. Phoenix has got several cards in his deck. You already mentioned on them as well, but he's got several ways to go and jump the curve and accelerate in his deck as well too. Maybe be more fair to even call him a mid-range ramp deck, because he does have a number of those artifact accelerators.
Right, right. I mean, I've seen Indormi's build, and honestly, his hand right now isn't very good either. It would be a losing hand to a lot of decks, but PhoenixForge is just giving him all the time in the world to draw useful cards right now. Again, resources.
Right.
So Phoenix is really looking for a resource here.
You know, we haven't seen the Soul Marble yet, but I would say this is probably the kind of scenario where Soul Marble really shines, when each player is just kind of staring at each other and not having to react to each other too much. Especially when you have these slower matchups like this.
PhoenixForge is rocking the original art version of Ragefire, not the alternate art. See if Indormi can draw anything useful here.
So for Dormy's turn, he draws a Solitary Exile.
That's a good answer to a number of things.
But we still have yet to see a permanent hit the board. And for Phoenix's turn...
No, which of those 6 drops would you lead with in this situation?
For me, it's probably going to be one of the Slaughter Gears. I would probably want to test the waters with one of those first, I think. But in this turn, Phoenix has drawn the Cerebral Fulmination. What does that card do again?
Looks like Cerebral Fulmination. It's going to be adding an extra draw to each player's turn. So that's going to sort of accelerate both players evenly.
So one of the things that's really interesting is what's going to end up happening here with this Mastery of Time that Indormi's got in his hand. So Indormi will be able to take extra turns and actually draw multiple extra cards off of that Cerebral Fulmination here.
Yes. That's one of the reasons a lot of players don't like the Fulmination. But Ruby doesn't have a lot of access to extra card drawing, so I suppose in this case he's using what he has available to him.
Yep, and that is what Indormi does here. He decides he wants to keep hitting more of his resource drops and get some extra cards.
Yeah, we'll see how well it works out for him. I think just looking at a bubble, I mean, PhoenixForge has a lot of power in his hand, but...
Yeah, I really like the position that Indormi's in right here. It looks like he can just sit back, take his time. He can get the extra cards from the Fulmination, and the extra turns he can turn into more extra cards. Mastery Time is great when you're already ahead, but it's even better when you're drawing more cards off of it.
There's a Drews. That's looking pretty good right now. He's got, what, seven charge counters on Dimid right now?
Yes.
Ooh, that's a lot of life gain.
And most people here probably know how this will work, but the life gain from Dimid will very nicely counteract the offsetting ability for Drew's Walker. Pretty much make it to where he can be a vigilant attacker. He does not have to exhaust.
Well, there's the 6th resource finally out of PhoenixForge. I think at this point it might be a little too late.
And it looks like he also drew an Argus for the turn. Yes.
That might be relevant. I'm not sure how fast it can come out in this point.
All right, so you're facing down Drew's Walker. We're going to make a champion power here.
Well, I think he has to. He's got to be able to try to get enough power and toughness out there, I think, to block and kill it. Of course, Indormi's holding those couple Buccaneers and an Exile, but Phoenix has got to get something out there, or he knows he dies to Drew's Walker in 3 turns.
That's right. And we have the benefit of seeing the hands here, but if you were in Phoenix's position, do you think you would do this any differently?
Well, he doesn't have a lot of options. I think, honestly, after I made the champion power at the 5/5, I might have stopped with that. Well, no, I guess because the Rage Fire is basic action, which of course is only on its own turn. For a moment, I was thinking that he could have combined it with the burn that he had and try to trick Indormi into thinking that he didn't have enough to block and kill. But I guess in the current position, he doesn't really have many options but to put some guys out there and hope they stick.
Yep. And so now Indormi's pretty far ahead. He's drawn another Buccaneer to add to the team here.
And if I'm Indormi, I only bounce one guy here and still attack over. He doesn't need to bounce both of them.
So you like going for the master your time here?
No, I don't think he needs it at all. I mean, Phoenix just played his first real threat. He's sitting there holding 2 Buccaneers. I mean, it would be a solid play, but it doesn't win him the game by itself. So I think I might just hold it. But.
Okay. Well, he does go ahead and take the additional extra turn here.
I mean, so he can attack now, and I mean, Phoenix is. He's holding the 2 Buccaneers. Those are basically almost like take another turn at this point in the game, anyways. He knows Phoenix isn't running very many little threats, if any. You know, he basically had 3 Mastery of Times there.
That's right. It looks like Indormi's got a lot of good tempo here. He's drawn another Solitary Exile. He's drawn another Resource Shard here. Probably won't matter too much for this game at this point, though. Looks like Indormi's pretty comfortably in the lead.
Yeah. I would be expecting the concession to come pretty soon here.
And that's worth asking, too. Are there any cards that we could even see from PhoenixForge here that could tilt this back in his favor? Turn this back around?
Not unless he's running Imp Hoodlums. I could see him doing Heatwave Imp Hoodlums with his 2 cards off Fulmination. He can't get to the 8 resources to play Eternal Guardian. Not that that would stick anyways, but...
Okay, well, let's see if we can draw something good here. Have the Argus trigger. And for his turn, PhoenixForge is going to draw.
Maybe a little lag here.
Oh. Is it stuck, possibly?
Yeah, well, he's moving.
Looks like the timer is stuck. The timer is moving, but the resources still say 0 at the start of PhoenixForge's turn.
It's just maybe a little lag. Sometimes when you hit these situations, if you hit the space bar, it helps them go through.
Well, he's conceded here.
Yeah. Be interesting to see the sideboards in these decks. Phoenix is sporting, looks like quite a versatile sideboard.
Yeah, I saw him bring in the Imp Hoodlums, and he's taking out the Heat Waves.
The aforementioned Imp Hoodlums. It's got a Trask and a... He does have a Total Meltdown he could bring in, but not that I think that he should, but it is there.
Not sure if he's bringing anything else in at this point.
And JJ, you and I were talking before the match whether PhoenixForge was running any Burn to the Grounds, and we can see right there that there are 3 of them.
Should go nicely to finish off Indormi if it gets to that point in the game. Looks like he's cutting one of his Slaughter Gears.
I wonder what he's going to bring in for that.
And we had guessed before that maybe PhoenixForge would try to go with a more aggressive plan. We're still waiting to see. Maybe the Zoltogs could come in, possibly. It looks like he's opting to shave cards. He shaved down on the Hex engine. It looks like he's keeping a lot of the similar cards, except he took the Heat Waves out.
Yes, definitely the Heat Wave.
And from Indormi's side, he has decided that he does not want to play the Living Totems here.
Interesting call. I think those blinding lights look very important. And there he goes, he's putting them in.
Yep, Blinding Light is the first one that he's bringing in here. So we've said that we think that Indormi is going for the long game. And he does decide that he wants to bring in a couple of secret labs to play a little bit stronger to the long game, and he sideboards out 2 of his Buccaneers to support that.
I don't know about that Buccaneer call. I mean, Phoenix is running a lot of high-cost troops, and Buccaneer is just straight tempo in those situations.
Which do you like better in this matchup? Do you like the Time Ripples better, or do you like the Buccaneers better?
That's a pretty good question. I guess they do a lot of the same thing. Time Ripple has the ability to hit Fulmination, but and possibly Ash Harpy. I mean, Indormi didn't see Ash Harpy. He might presume that they're there, seeing the deck style, but I'm still a very solid fan on Buccaneer. The Living Totems going out was interesting.
Okay, well, these players will draw for their second game here. We'll have Phoenix on the play in this matchup. And Phoenix's hand is 3 shards, 2 removal spells, a Drew's Walker, and a way to generate additional resources. And Dormi's hand is 4 resources, 2 of those Blinding Lights that he brought in, and a Mastery of Time. So PhoenixForge wastes no time and immediately starts throwing Burn directly at Indormi's face. Looks like he is going to go with the more aggressive plan for this game.
Yeah, well, I think looking at his hand, he feels like he has to. He's got the Burn, the Rage Fire, the Surge Mechanism goes quickly into Drew's. He's got to be looking at 2 hits with Drew's trying to be the game here.
Yep. Very good point. With the 2 burn spells we've seen here in his opening hand, he would be able to finish it off with just 2 swings from Drew. Now, we have a choice here. He's drawing the Cerebral Fulmination. Do you go with the Rage Fire, or do you go with the Cerebral Fulmination here?
Well, as we saw, he just went with the Rage Fire. I believe since he had already gone with the plan of trying to burn him down quickly, and he had the Rage Fire in hand, that probably should be his call. If he plays the Fulmination there, it just gives Indormi another turn of drawing that extra card as well.
Okay, and on Dorby's turn, he's drawn one of his big threats that we talked about, the Soul Marble. And immediately plays that one.
Haven't seen a counter magic out of Indormi yet.
And for Phoenix's turn, he's drawn another Cerebral Fulmination here. He opts to go with the Surge Mechanism.
Well, again, he's going with that 2-hit Drew's Walker plan.
Alright, and for Indormi's turn, we draw another shard here. So Indormi just plays his shard and we'll pass it back.
Indormi's been drawing a lot of resources in this match so far. I did a quick look at his deck as we were able, and it looked like it was running only 25 shards, so he's just been able to draw a good number of them.
Looks like for this turn, PhoenixForge has decided that he doesn't want to play the Imp Hoodlums he's drawn or the Fulminations, and he wants to just leave his resources available for the Surge Mechanism. Indormi takes advantage and goes ahead and puts 3 counters on his marble. Indormi has drawn another shard for his turn.
Man, Indormi has a lot of delay here. He's got to find a threat at some point.
When you've drawn a lot of just blanks with resources, do you do anything to try to pretend that you maybe have a little more action than what you actually have here?
Well, I don't know. I don't know that Indormi's deck has a lot of pretend to it. I wanted to point out, though, JJ, we just saw PhoenixForge forget to use his Surge Mechanism during Indormi's end step, so he did miss an activation of Surge Mechanism.
That is true. Hopefully that won't come back to bite him here. Indormi is up to 7 counters on the marble from his end of turn, and he draws the extra card.
Mastery of Time and Secret Laboratory.
Yeah, he's certainly got more action here now. He's got lots of options.
I'm not sure that he should play anything here. I think maybe just activating. Yeah, I was just to say maybe he activates that and just attacks for 6.
Yep, there are no threats on the board, and that is exactly what Indormi decides to do. He's going to start the clock. We're going to ride the cavalry to town. And he does decide to activate the champion ability to gain his 6 life here as well.
Well, and why not? He doesn't have any other target for it in sight, so he might as well use him now while he can.
Okay, and for his turn, PhoenixForge has drawn a Chimes of the Zodiac, which is certainly a nice little combo piece with the Ragefires in his deck, and another shard.
Oh, that's going to help.
So you're facing down a 6/6 Soul Cavalry with this mono ruby deck. What is it that you're hoping to do here?
Well, the first thing I think he's hoping to do is be able to draw a resource and get lucky with Tetzot's ability. It's a 6/6. I mean, it's going to be hard to raise it at this point, so.
He does decide to put the Drew's Walker out there to at least be a blocker for this turn. And Indormi here has drawn a Drew's Walker of his own.
Ooh, and
along with
a
a
repel.
Yes.
He can save those blinding lights for like burn to the grounds and such.
So Indormi's thinking here, and I'll ask you as well too, because he's got a lot of options here. What do you like here? Do you like the repel for the Drew's Walker? Do you like going for the mastery time just to draw more cards, or do you like putting the big threat out there with the Drew's Walker of your own?
Well, I mean, Indormi has all the options right now. PhoenixForge is pretty strapped as to what he can do. I think right now he knows his opponent's Drew's Walker has to attack, so I think he sits on the repel, uses that. If he wants to, he could play the Secret Lab this turn. I don't think I would, simply because he wouldn't have the mana to activate it, and he could bluff counter magic, but he didn't do either of those two things.
Yep, he decides to make another threat. Looks like Indormi wants another Drew's Walker to add to the team, put some more power on the board.
Well, he does have lethal on the board right now. Could be noted about that. I think that's where he was going, is he sees 14 life and 14 power on the board.
Yes, it looks like, barring having another blocker from PhoenixForge, it would be looking pretty good from Indormi's side here, because that Drew's Walker can't block.
No, but
unless he wants to pay the life.
But the input are pretty good here.
Oh, yes. Input come in to make quick work of the opposing Drew's Walker.
The thing is, though, Phoenix really, he doesn't have the ability to untap Drew's Colossal Walker that Indormi has with Dimid's activation power. Another Mastery of Time.
So PhoenixForge decides to...
Can Indormi just win out on Mastery of Time right now?
Yes, he probably can.
Because that's 4 turns.
In fact, he definitely can.
4 turns, 1 blocker, 3 attacks is 18 damage into the 14. I think he can just win out on Mastery of Time right now.
Yep, that is right. It should be noteworthy. What do you think? If it would it have been any different if PhoenixForge might have decided to ready his Drew's Walker on his last turn by paying the life on that turn?
Well, it certainly would be different now. The problem with activating it, it'd be just like getting hit by the opponent's Drew's Walker. He saw Buccaneers in game 1. All it would have taken, was a Buccaneer or so, and he would have been dead in the same situation. I'm looking back a couple turns where he missed that surge mechanism activation. He could have had Chimes of the Zodiac out in play, and it might have been able to make a difference.
You make an excellent point here, because the double Rage Fire definitely was an option. But yeah, it certainly can't disagree. I mean, it's hard to know whether your opponents, especially with a deck like Indormi's, where it's got so many very different threats, whether he's got the Buccaneer versus the Mastery of Time, and they definitely attack from some different angles there.
Right. And it does look like that's what Indormi is doing, is just taking extra turns until Phoenix is dead.
And so here he's drawn another Drew's Walker, another Repel. That Cerebral Fulmination has given a lot of extra cards to Indormi here this game.
It certainly has.
And he's going to attack here again. And I think that's probably going to prompt the concession.
Yeah, it should. I don't see anything that Phoenix would be looking at to make him think that he has a chance to survive.
And on the last turn, we draw another Shard.
So we commented that he had those 2 blinding lights in his opening hand, and he never had to use a single one.
That is true. Do you think that it just never came up? Or, I mean, it didn't seem like it was very, very aggressive start from Phoenix there.
No. Phoenix, he didn't have an aggressive start either game. I think a lot of his threats are a bit slow to go against Indormi. You know, the Ash Harpy might be notable with its speed, that it, can at least get in there for damage before it dies, or if it gets bounced with a Time Ripple or Buccaneer, that it can be even worse, on its second casting. His threats like Slaughter Gear and such are just really too slow and play right into Indormi's removal.
Yep. I think the only thing that the one thing that kind of stood out to me was those cerebral fulminations. Do you think that those kind of worked against Phoenix in those games?
Well, I think in a way that they did work against him with the Mastery of Time. But every situation, though, we saw in that match where Indormi was casting Mastery of Time, he was in a winning situation anyways. So Mastery of Time, with the combination of the opposing fulmination, was just really a win more situation. But again, I think PhoenixForge has, limited options as to what's available if he's going to play that type of deck. I don't know that you can play that style without fulmination, and you just kind of have to risk that drawback.
You just have to accept that sometimes you're going to have some games like that where you just have to walk into it, and sometimes they'll draw some extra cards.
Yes.
Fair enough. Well, that's going to do it for this game. We had a 2-0 win from Indormi, and we're going to see you guys here the next game.